Ladies and gentlemen, it's a beautiful day. It is December 23rd, 2 days until Christmas. And like the great Grinch himself, the cryptocurrency markets seem to be here to steal our Christmas. In today's episode, I'm going to tell you everything you need to know to stay armed and dangerous during this dip, exactly how low we may be going. Are we going to bounce? What time horizons to look forward to in January, and much, much more. Let's get cracking. Just a quick reminder, we are, of course, having our end of year Christmas sale. All memberships to the Crypto Trading Academy are currently 30% off. Simply use coupon code SANTA, that's SANTA, all caps, at checkout to get 30% off all annual and monthly memberships into the Crypto Trading Academy. With that out of the way, let's start off with our macros here. Where are we at in the cycle? As we can see, Bitcoin's recent move down has let us correct below the mid-range of the cycle. Big picture, we are still a far ways away from anything like a left-handed cycle as we experienced back in 2021, where we got about midway up, which would be approximately about $200,000, and certainly nowhere near to the left-handed cycles that we had. We had a left-handed cycle in 2021, and in the previous cycles, we had right-handed cycles. So the cycle extending all the way through and having an extended cycle. That would be putting us up to close to $370,000. Now, I do agree that is quite a great price target. I am very conservatively targeting approximately $200,000 to $215,000 on a right-handed cycle in 2025. As far as MVRV goes, we are nowhere near a cycle top. We are currently just experiencing the same level of resistance that we did back when we topped out in the early of 2024 in approximately March and April. And again, as I've gone over numerous times on the Bitcoin chart, what happened there? Monetary policy. All right. We obviously had the launch of the Bitcoin ETFs in January, but the Fed then pulled back on raising interest rates, really giving two bullish catalysts for price to move. But why did we top in March? Well, the Fed came out and gave no clear timeline on their rate cuts. And we entered the summer doldrums until the first rate cut in September, experiencing, and also kicked off, of course, by the Trump election on November 5th. But then what just occurred several days ago, last week on Wednesday? Well, we got a second rate cut, but lowered expectations for rate cuts in 2025, bringing the wind out of the sails and turning economic or monetary policy tailwinds, unfortunately, into currently headwinds. So we are experiencing a correction. SOPR has dropped down to 1.01. All right. SOPR going down shows less strength from investors in the Bitcoin market. We do see that stablecoin dominance is on the rise, has been able to successfully break out of this double bottom, currently trading at about 6%. And I would conservatively say if the correction continues, that we will likely see stablecoin dominance move back up to something like 7%. Bitcoin and stables dominance is rejecting a little bit after bouncing up and retesting the trend line that we were trading in. And those very enthusiastic on altcoins are really expecting a move to the downside, which is not impossible. If we look at the others chart, all right, so this is tracking the relative price performance of altcoins versus Bitcoin. And we do see, as I pointed out on Friday, we were getting multiple buy signals. Those continued throughout the week, and we also got one on Sunday. So we are experiencing on the broader altcoin markets, not necessarily, Ethereum is showing a little bit more strength than Bitcoin right now, but the broader altcoin markets are bouncing back quite strongly. I would still warrant quite a bit of caution as we move into the end of the year. Getting to Bitcoin on the daily. All right, we of course have a bearish 5-minute, 30-minute, 1-hour, and 4-hour trend. We also have a bullish daily trend. We are in the daily buy zone. We are coming to the proximity of the 50 DMA, which would be our next level of support. Excuse me. And then looking at our weekly time frame, we are closely approaching that 10 weekly DMA. So we're going to see if that does act as support, if that does act as a bounce. Overall, and this is exactly what I went over in my report this morning. Overall, we do have some concerning factors going on. The fact that Bitcoin on this bounce was unable to sustain above the 4-hour 200 SMA, wasn't able to get back above the critical 30 DMA that has been acting as the level of support for this entire rally. And prices are now sustaining for 2 days below $95,000. And that is concerning. The longer we sustain below $95,000, the greater the downside risk emerges. Now, currently intraday, we are trading in the value area low of the day. All right, we can see that on the 5-minute, we can see that on the 30-minute. So there is an opportunity here for the contrarian trader to take prices to the upside, but we still have not been able to break out of our bearish trends on all the meso timeframes, and we are about to lose the daily time frame. So while I think today does present a possibility for price to begin rallying up to about $104,000 if we were going to see a more pronounced, kind of break of support, retest, rejection from the previous trading range, and then descent, that is starting to look less and less likely the closer we creep to 92,000. Now, I am still heavily weighted in Bitcoin because I think it is the safest asset to hold through this correction. And so my current projection is that if we are unable to rally into Christmas, if we don't get that Santa rally, which is still on the table, it's not completely impossible, we could double bottom here and begin moving up. But Michael Saylor is on pause until February. They're not going to be buying Bitcoin until February. So that is not exhibiting the greatest amount of confidence throughout the markets right now. And again, Bitcoin being the strongest thing to hold right now. So my current worst case scenario is seeing something like a retracement. Not to the weekly point of control. I don't really see any fundamentals that would suggest that. And I don't see anything that suggests that this is a cycle top, as I said. Look, if you look at the on-chain, if you look at the fundamentals, you'll see that's not the case. We are experiencing a correction, though, perhaps a correction that was long overdue. A lot of excitement, a lot of newbies coming into the space post November 5th. And so here we are. My current worst case scenario is backfilling to approximately 75,000 to 80,000. That would be refilling not only the daily, that would be the projected proximity of the daily 200 SMA. By the time we get down there, it'll likely creep up to about 75 to 80,000. That's also where, of course, the much talked about CME futures gap fill is. All right, so those two areas provide confluence to that level, and that would also be in line with, if we were to trace from the top to about 80,000, that would be a 25% correction, which would be in line with the corrections that we've been seeing thus far in the cycle. So we're about halfway through the correction if the worst case scenario plays out. And then as far as timeline wise goes, the same critical fundamentals that I was looking for in last week's live streams and in this morning's report is looking for two things. One, of course, for MicroStrategy to begin repurchasing Bitcoin again in February. They're on a self-imposed blackout throughout January. So they are going to begin repurchasing Bitcoin again in February. And then secondly, we're going to have two FOMCs, one in January and one in March, to potentially get a more dovish pivot from the Fed, because it is those dovish pivots from the Fed that have breathed life into every significant Bitcoin rally and honestly cryptocurrency rally that we've seen thus far. Now, again, I think in the tactical time frame over the next week, I think there is some possibility that altcoins continue to show strength as they are heavily oversold and will likely experience a bounce. But I'm not really seeing, especially if the Bitcoin is going to correct more and give us that 20 to 25% correction, it's likely that we do see an overall slump in the markets for the next 1 to 3 months until we get that bullish pivot from the Fed, or until post-Trump's inauguration and more positive news begins to come out. But I'm actually very excited about that. You shouldn't be really worried about that. And here's why. Because as we had talked about, if the market continued to really charge and rally up to $120,000, $150,000, that would have been absolutely amazing. And I don't think impossible still, but that would have been amazing. But it would have kind of given a lot of strength to the left-handed cycle argument. The idea that Bitcoin would top out early within the first quarter of 2025. Now that we might be experiencing a more pronounced correction and really getting a breather and getting all that kind of, liquidating the longs, liquidating the late longs, getting the weekends out. If we're going to have a pretty traditional 20 to 25% pullback on Bitcoin here at this point, back to about $80,000, $75,000, then that then really sets us up for that right-handed cycle, where our cycle does extend into late 2025, and we really do get to experience great gains, and we really do get to see Bitcoin's price really move close to the top of the logarithmic growth chart, which would be absolutely fantastic to see. So overall, again, we do have those bearish meso time frame trends. Looking at our key levels for the day, we can see currently that our point of control is coming in at 95,396. So that's currently acting as resistance right now on the tactical time frame. We've got our VWAP at 94,484, where we are trading below. We are currently trading in the value area low from 91,948 to 93,489. So again, for the contrarian buyer out there wanting to buy the dip, this is going to be the tactical area for the daily. For me, I would be managing risk below 92,000 because, again, the longer price is able to sustain itself below 95,000, it does increase that risk of downside. And we want to mitigate downside risk when there's uncertainty in the markets. We've all made great gains. We don't want to give as much back. We want to give as little back to the market as possible and just reemerge when there is more clarity in the markets. We're momentum-based traders. We've lost all our meso time frame levels of momentum. And if we lose the daily, then we want to be pretty cautious. All right. So I think tactically, intraday or over the next couple of days, we could anticipate a rally into Christmas, which is a historical occurrence for BTC. If that occurs, it also does strengthen the idea that we could see a move back up to that $103,000, $104,000 level. We want to be watching out there to see if price does reject from that level, because we could still get a pushback. We've broken through support. We could get a BPR, a break pullback retest. We reject from 103, 104,000, and then still move down to approximately $75,000 to $80,000 to retest that daily 200 SMA and refill the CME futures gap. Either of those scenarios is possible. With regards to Ethereum, Ethereum is showing greater strength than Bitcoin right now, as is the broader altcoin markets. All right. We have a neutral 5-minute trend, a neutral 30-minute trend. We have a bearish 1-hour trend and a bearish 4-hour trend. But what's interesting about Ethereum is this level of consolidation that we've seen on the hourly, and we can see on the meso timeframes. This does look like the selling pressure has greatly been mitigated and buyers are stepping in to accumulate up BTC. And this also jives with the massive spike in implied volatility that we have seen on Ethereum over the last few days. So options traders on Ethereum are betting pretty big on Ethereum upside. Now, we have seen Ethereum fees significantly decline over the last month from about $70 million to now below $50 million. And decreased fees means less on-chain activity, which generally signals lower demand for Ethereum, which generally signals a drop in Ethereum's price. And that usually rolls over and spills over into the broader altcoin market. And we've also seen, for example, the fact that their staking yields have not gone up, still well below 10-year treasury yield, so unattractive. And that's going to have to be somewhat of a selling point as BlackRock moves to promote Ethereum, their Ethereum ETF products, as well as their Bitcoin ETF products through 2025, as BlackRock has committed to not launching new altcoin ETFs in 2025, but simply promoting their currently existing offerings, which would be Bitcoin and Ethereum. However, it is important to note that, again, options traders are betting pretty heavily on Ethereum upside, and the price action here does suggest that buyers are stepping in because it has not been, we are showing more strength than Bitcoin here. All right. We do have, again, a very nice reversal candle here on the daily time frame, coming very close to the vicinity of the 200 daily SMA. We are currently sustaining above that level, although underneath our daily momentum band. So still, caution is warranted here. All right. We need to regain that 4-hour momentum, that hourly momentum. If I were trading today, which I'm not, I'm taking this week off. But if I were trading today, I would be watching this hourly momentum band and looking to pretty much optimistically long the breakout for potential retest of 3,600 to 3,800. All right. So basically on the 4-hour time frame, that would be a return to the top of the momentum bands and potentially the 4-hour 200 SMA. All right. So what the bulls want to see is not for this 4-hour rally and rejection that we saw on Ethereum, that we saw on Bitcoin. We don't want that to be the retest. That's not what the bulls want. The bulls, even if we are going to move lower, they want to see a more pronounced retest of something like 3,800. All right. So that's what is potentially, optimistically, we're looking for a potential Santa rally, which historically does occur in crypto, in Bitcoin, when we are in this bull cycle. So things to look for. With regards to our other assets, again, we are seeing increased strength from altcoins, as we can deduce from the others chart. Whenever it gives us buying opportunities, we know that we might see price appreciation on altcoins relative to BTC. Now, we do need to zoom this chart out. If we go to the weekly, we can see, unfortunately, that we are trading in a descending channel, and we did just reject from the top of the descending channel, making a lower high, which would typically portend to a lower low of about 1.79 million, which would be quite a lot of bloodbath for altcoins out there. So I am still recommending caution underneath the 200 SMA. We do want to be kind of conservative. We did have a great, basically 1-month rally into altcoins. Spent one day, literally one day in altcoin season. All right. And I am very optimistically bullish, but I am unfortunately seeing the most likely scenario emerging as a 1 to 3 month slump, which again, for me, is a very good thing, because of what that means is it almost guarantees a right-handed cycle as opposed to a left-handed cycle for cryptocurrency. So yes, this is a dip we buy. But again, we want to be managing our downside risk. So this is not a time for high leverage unless you have a very good strategy that is very tactical. For those of you who are looking to DCA and enter, you need to be entering into coins that have exhibited strength throughout this cycle. And I do want to comment on those coins. Again, ENA, SUI, XRP, OHM, Pepe, Mantle, Deep, Ondo Finance, Radium, Jito, HBAR, Aave, Phantom, and Hype. But I want to point out that most of the coins that were showing strength that went out in my recent report, we are starting to see a bit of a few signs of weakness. Hyperliquid, for example, just reported this morning that marked North Korean wallets, marked North Korean hackers' wallets, like the Lazarus Group, they are now trading on Hyperliquid, and they currently have losses of about $700,000. And so the speculation in the community is that potentially they are executing transactions on Hyperliquid to kind of poke and prod and see if there's a vulnerability. So that is causing a little bit of down sentiment in the community. Otherwise, Hyper continues to be pretty much one of the trades of the season, in addition to things like SUI and ENA. So they are still holding up. We are starting to see some caution and more cautious price action from, again, our top performers, including XRP. Even OHM, for example, is showing a little bit of caution here. Ondo Finance pulling back. Deep, low cap on SUI, Mantle, Pepe. But overall, this is the strength that I would be looking to accumulate into for the next wave in 2025. Unfortunately, we are seeing lots of the dinosaur coins, right? So for example, our avalanches, our Polkadots, our not our stacks particularly, but our Cosmos. I mean, they are so underperforming. And this is exactly why I sold out 50% of my positions near the top. And it is now my renewed conviction to just go ahead and get out of these positions. I really don't care if they pump, because they're not going to be the narrative and the hype moving forward. And I largely consider these to be, in the big picture, dead and not going to be retaining their all-time highs. We can, excuse me, we continue to see renewed excitement from virtuals, but again, we are showing a little bit of caution here as we are making lower highs. We shall see if this most recent one, if this most recent push to the upside today has legs or sustains itself. We are seeing, again, some nice buybacks over the last couple of days from some of our small caps like Department of Government Efficiency and Incentive Rep Bitcoin on Pulse Chain, but we have retraced a long bit. So again, for the holders out there, 2025 is going to be a beautiful year. But in the short term, it is unclear if we're going to experience more pain. And so all eyes definitely on Bitcoin as we move forward. Now let's do a quick check-in. With our Mink strategy. This is one of our most popular automated strategies. And we'll see how it handled the dump. All right. Minx initially went short on December 17th at noon. Took at approximately a closing price of 106,494. It took profit at 104,218. It went short again at 7 a.m. on December 18th, and again doubled down on noon that same day, closing out at 99,717, and then went short again and took profit, and then went short again and took profit. Let's see, the last couple of days in this most recent consolidation on BTC, we've been kind of break even, longing here and closing out, shorting short. So yeah, overall, just kind of getting the consolidation here, which is just fine. We can see these are very, except for this one, which is probably somewhat of a regular size loss. These right here are relatively break-even losses, so not too concerning. Handling the dump just fine. And of course, Minx is up quite significantly this year as well. Let's see. Again, we can see it handling admirably as well on the Ethereum dump here. Unfortunately, longing incorrectly here. Break-even trade. And Minx is loading up on longs for Ethereum to the upside here as well. It has longed Ethereum 3 times since basically backtesting this as support, its baseline as support, which is one of the metrics that it uses for determining trades. So it is still to be seen whether we do see continued upside from Ethereum. And of course, Solana doing well on Solana, managing to not do obviously very well in the dump. Doing okay, getting a little chopped up here, but managing to pull some profits out of the shorts. And then again, also loading up on Solana here on the hourly time frame, as we see Solana potentially breaking out here on the hourly time frame. So in summary, ladies and gentlemen, we do see a catalyst here for some bounce backs in the others BTC chart. Back on that daily time frame, again, we are getting oversold conditions and we are bouncing at the 200 SMA, so we've returned to the average of others. So again, I don't want to be bearish here. I do not want to be bearish. I do not want to be bearish for 2025. But as a trader, I also do need to manage downside risk and let you guys know what the worst case scenario is. So I'm overall pretty optimistic that there is a strong chance we can get a nice bounce here moving into Christmas, which would be beautiful, a great Christmas present from the cryptocurrency markets. But overall, there is still quite a lot of downside risk for a continued basically a doubling of the correction that we've experienced on BTC, potentially another 15%, 10 to 15%, moving down to that 75,000, 80,000. If that occurs, it's unlikely that altcoins weather the storm. So while Bitcoin here is essentially moving sideways at support, as it has kind of done for the last couple of days, yes, we are going to see altcoins bounce back. But once Bitcoin makes a decisive movement, those altcoins are likely going to give back their gains very, very, very quickly. So the only way I see the altcoin rally continuing right now in this weakness is if Bitcoin very decisively moves to the upside. We still see pullbacks in the altcoins in that situation, but then those altcoins then become very buyable altcoins and not, oh my God, everything's going to zero altcoins. If Bitcoin unfortunately does make a decisive movement to continue retracing, and that little 4-hour bounce and hourly bounce that we saw was the retracement, then altcoins are likely going to get nuked once Bitcoin decides to break down. So this is a time to be very tactical. And since you guys are going to be with your family, and since you guys are hopefully going to be spending Christmas with your loved ones, except for the Degens who are just going to be on the charts, you guys need to be able to manage your downside risk. This is not a time to be kind of, again, for your long-term holds, that's absolutely fine. 2025 is going to be a great year. But I know a lot of you are in situations where you're down. A lot of you are likely in situations where you got yourself into positions with leverage or with just altcoin positions that you're very uncomfortable with right now. And it is okay. Like, especially if the position that you're in is a position that, hey, I kind of bought this coin. I got a little, over enthusiastic and was kind of just buying stuff up left and right. It happens to the best of us. And now all of a sudden I'm down quite a bit, and hey, it can go down a lot more. So it's not a bad time to take the L, rebalance your portfolio, get somewhere where you're comfortable, especially if you're going to be spending a few days or a week or so off for the holidays, so that you can come back fresh, renewed, and vigorous for the new year. And remember, when you're taking trades, okay, it's not a trade if, in my opinion, if you don't have a clear exit strategy for a best case scenario and a worst case scenario. So if you're in a position where you're like, man, I don't know whether to buy or sell, that's an asset you never should have bought in the first place, because anytime you enter into a position, you need to know exactly where you're going to cut your losses. Even on a long-term investment, you need to know exactly where you're going to want to scale out profits so that you don't get too greedy. And this is just the way to treat trading like a business and not treat it like a get-rich-quick scheme. The market punishes those who don't have discipline. The market will punish you for a strategy. Not when everything's pumping and moving up. That's fine. Everybody's a genius. Everybody's a genius when everything's moving up. You're a genius when everything's moving up. But when things start coming down, you realize, most people do, how not smart they really are. How the strategy of blindly buying, thinking that everything's going to go up, doesn't work when the trend bends and prices pull back. Especially because nobody knows if the correct, like with 100% certainty. Can't promise you anything. I can't predict the future. But what I can do is tell you what my strategies show and how I would trade personally and how I do trade personally. So if any of this rang home to you guys, I really encourage you guys. Let me show you. We are, as I said, we have 30% off all of our annual and monthly memberships in the Crypto Trading Academy. This is my life's work. I've been in crypto full-time since 2016, and I was trading Forex prior to that. This is my life's work. I teach people how to build profitable crypto trading strategies from the ground up, assuming no experience. It doesn't require coding, although that option is there. You do learn how to Pine script in the course. So you will go through the Pathways to Profit course. You will learn how to build a profitable strategy, indicator-based technical strategy from the ground up, from step one with no experience, full risk management, full conditions. You'll learn how to do everything. You'll also get access to our indicator library. You'll get access to over 100 gigabytes of our trading library. You'll get access to our private community, my full unlocked alpha reports every single day, weekly mentoring sessions, and much, much more. So give yourself the gift of profitable trading and join our community if you need some help in this Christmas season. Guys, I will be back the day after Christmas for a full live stream. I want to thank you guys so much for all of your support throughout this year. Our channel, our socials, we've grown more this year than we have in a long time, and it is all thanks to you guys. So thank you guys so much for your continued support. If you've watched all the way to the end, I really appreciate it. If you like and subscribe, you will really help us out. You can follow us. We live stream every day, Monday through Friday, from noon to 2 Central Standard Time on YouTube, Rumble, and X. You can join our Discord for free and meet some great people in there and really sharpen your saw. I'm not going to lie. I've learned so much in that Discord. And if you're interested and if you want to really up your game, come join us in the Crypto Trading Academy. I will see you guys on Thursday. Trade safely and be good. Merry Christmas.